everyone, it's Laura from DogEU, and today we're going to talk about the question of when should you start training your service dog, as well as a bunch of other tips for you to think about before you ever start embarking on your own owner-trained service dog journey. So let's get started. Everyone, so if you're new to this channel, a little background on me. I've been in the service dog industry for 12 years. I'm currently a placement specialist and a certified guide dog trainer instructor for my day job, and then I also do private service dog training and run my own business, DogEU, for the past 10 or so years. So I've been in this industry for a while, and what I'm going to bring to you today is my best advice before you embark on an owner training journey for your service dog, as well as when you should actually start training your service dog. So I'm sure a lot of you thought I was going to come on here and say that you should start training your dog the minute that you bring them home, and that training starts from day one for your service dog, which is all true, but really training and the decision to owner train your service dog and the training of yourself needs to start months and potentially years prior to you ever getting a dog that's an appropriate service dog and training candidate. Service dog training is such an intense journey. You're either training or untraining your dog, which means that on good days and bad days, you're always training your dog. So before you ever get into that, you need to start training yourself. So my first recommendation is to start reading up on general dog training. You know, we've got some amazing books out there from the people that are really top in the industry. Karen Pryor, Dr. Patricia McConnell. I'm going to make a list of books down below that I highly recommend that you start with for thinking about whether or not owner training is right for you. So your goal with starting in on this list of books that are all about just general dog training is trying to decide if owner training is really the right thing for you. So if you read the first book and you're like, I have so many questions, I definitely want to read the next book, and you read the next book and you have more questions and you want to read the next book, and you're so excited about this journey and dog training and the intricacies of all of it, then owner trained service dog is probably the right journey, or at least you should take the next step in that path for you. If you read the first book and you're bored, and you read the second book and you can't take it anymore, it might be time to think about other options or to supplement your training. So either getting in with a trainer where you can do some board and train, or getting a program trained dog, because you are going to have to be so deep into dog training to do an owner trained service dog that you have to be in love with it. You know, if I read a book on engineering, I don't want to read a second book on engineering, which means that I'm not going to engineer my own house, right? It means that that's probably the time to hire a professional to do the work. If I can't even get through a couple books, or even, deep dive into videos about certain things, then I have to kind of decide, is this the right path for me to go on? And maybe it is. Maybe reading isn't your thing. Maybe you want to listen to audiobooks. Maybe you want to watch a ton of videos, but you want to have that passion for trying to figure out how to train problems, because problems, behavior issues are all going to come up in your service dog training journey. And if you're not into the nitty gritty of how we solve those problems from a training perspective, then going about getting a service dog in a different way may be a better option for you. So now you've read the books, you've watched videos, you've listened to the podcast, you're ready to get your service dog. But hold up. I think the next best step for you is probably to train the dog you have in front of you. So do you have a family pet, a friend's pet, or access to an animal that you can work with prior to getting your service dog prospect? Then now is the time to train that dog, right? So if you're a brand new trainer, you don't want to take a brand new trainer and a brand new dog and put them together ideally. What you really want to do is practice your skills. So if you have a pet dog at home that's not a good candidate for service dog work, but is still a great option for practicing your skills, most service dogs, if they're not going to make it as service dogs, it's because they can't do the socialization portion, not because they can't do the task training portion. So any dog that you have available at home is a good dog to practice your skills on and see where you get. You may have different issues than you do when you get your service dog prospect, but problem solving and figuring out how to work with different dogs is only going to help you in your service dog journey. So sign up for some basic obedience classes at a local positive reinforcement training center with your pet dog or your friend's dog or whatever dog you have access to, and then try and go through the levels. See if you can go through to some advanced obedience, maybe take some rally, do some rally courses. Really get into it with a dog that's not necessarily going to need to do the work long term, so that if you make mistakes or it takes longer or any of that, you're kind of working through a lot of that with this first dog. Again, the behaviors may be totally different, but the idea of learning how to work through a behavior issue is only going to benefit you when you're owner training your service dog. If you don't have access to a family pet or your own dog or a friend's dog that you can work with at least weekly, if not multiple times a week on training, I suggest that you try and volunteer at a local training club or training facility. A lot of times they'll have assistant programs to help with classes, and that'll help you learn more about dog training before you get started. Because remember, you're going to be living and breathing dog training. You're never gonna have really a day off from training this service dog. So getting in and figuring out if this is something that you wanna do, I promise, is only going to help you when you get that new puppy or adult dog that you're looking at as a service dog prospect. All right, Laura, now I have read the books, I've listened to the podcast, I've assisted with classes, I've trained my neighbor's dog, now it's time to get a service dog. Hold up. One more thing that we need to do prior to making the commitment to a service dog prospect, and that is get a trainer on board. So I know that everyone wants to run out and they've loved a particular dog their entire life and they're gonna get a puppy and then they're gonna start their journey. But the best money that you can spend is getting someone in the industry with knowledge to help you pick out the right prospect for you. There's so much that goes into finding the right dog, and the number one predictor of whether or not the dog is going to make it as a service dog is the dog that you get. So I cannot stress this enough. Do not just go out and buy a dog. Do not do it. You want to be consulting with a service dog trainer who's been in the industry, not a pet dog trainer, about what type of dog is going to work best for you, and then potentially have them, if you're looking for a puppy, go out and evaluate a litter, help you find a breeder that's the right breeder for you, or help you vet different prospects like adult dogs so that you can get the best choice for your situation. Now is the time to set yourself up for success. And I get a lot of people that reach out, even just at 8 weeks when they first get their puppy, and they're like, all right, this is the dog that I want to train as a service dog. But it turns out the dog is not a good fit. They are not blank slates. Genetics really, really matters, and I cannot stress this enough. Genetics is the number one thing that matters as far as whether your dog is going to be a service dog or not. You can shift behavior on a scale, but you can't take a dog that's here and bring them all the way over there in general. So we want to find the right prospect for you, and the best way to do that is to get professional eyes on the dogs that you're looking at as prospects. I promise that will be money well spent for you. The other thing about consulting with a service dog trainer prior to starting your journey is they can help you flush out what tasks you're going to want the dog to do. I get a lot of people that want their 15-pound dog to do deep pressure therapy or turn on lights across the room, and it's significantly more challenging to turn on a light when you're only a foot high. And really, if we had gotten a dog that was the appropriate size for the tasks that you were looking for, you would be in better shape and you would have a greater variety of things that your dog could do. So whether that's you got a dog that's way too big or a dog that's way too small, or maybe you're picking the dog that's just right, consulting with a trainer and figuring out what types of things you want the dog to do prior to ever acquiring a dog is really going to help you in the long run. Now is also the time to decide how much help you're going to be wanting with training your service dog. So you may want a trainer on board, and I recommend getting someone who will at least do monthly check-ins with you so that you can get help with problem solving when those problems do arise. I like to use a plumbing analogy here. So if my sink springs a leak, I have three options, right? I can go ahead and go on YouTube and look at how to fix my sink and probably curse a lot and spend many, many hours trying to fix the sink myself. That's my one option. Number two would be to have my uncle, who happens to be a plumber, come over, watch over my shoulder and tell me what I should be doing and kind of coach me through the process. That's my number two option. And then my third option is to have a plumber come over. I'll pay him to do all the work for me. And then at the end, he just shows me how to use the sink. That's option number three. And those are your same three options that you have with service dog training. You can do it all yourself. You can have someone coach you through it, or you can get a dog that's already been trained. And all of those options are valid options, but you need to be realistic about what option is best for you. And generally, if you're going to owner train the second option, having someone that you can go to with problems is going to be your best option. So I want to pause for a moment to talk about the DogEU community over on Patreon, which is linked down below here. It's an online platform where I post tips, tricks, and extra training content to help you train your next service dog, pet dog, or adventure dog. I also do monthly Q&A where you could submit questions for me to answer live at that Q&A. And finally, I have an elite level where you can submit your videos of your dog training to get help with troubleshooting. So I'll review those videos and give you lots of tips and ideas on how to break through your training barrier or fix a problem that you're having. So if that interests you, definitely check it out below. We'd love to have you. All right, so I have one other thing to consider when you're thinking about owner training your service dog, and that's finding someone who will do some type of board and train option with you. So you're gonna be owner training your service dog, but periodically you may send your dog for a couple of weeks to get some extra help with training and follow-up lessons. You wanna look for someone who is a positive reinforcement trainer and is willing to give you references and allow you to watch some of the training that they do so that you know that you're getting someone who is qualified to do the training and that you're comfortable with the methods that you're using. This is also something that would be really good if you're training specifically a psych dog. So for instance, if you are triggered by being in certain spaces, it's best to have a professional or a neutral party introduce the dog into those spaces so that you're not bringing any feelings or emotions into those spaces when the dog first is introduced to them. So having someone who can do day training or board and train for specific areas that may be challenging for you is going to be really helpful in the long run. Okay, so now we're finally at the step where you're thinking about acquiring a dog, either putting a deposit down or finding an adult dog that will work for your situation. So the answer to when you should start training that particular dog is from day one. Things that are really cute as puppies is not cute as an adult. So we don't want to do things like feeding from the table or allowing jumping, even when they're young and when it's cute and when they're little. We want to start training for those positive behaviors that we want from day one. So teaching our dog that sitting gets rewarded for pets, or that when we eat, we go lay on a mat so that we're not begging at the table. All those things can be started right away with your puppy. But what's important with young dogs specifically, not if you're getting an older candidate, is everything should be fun and it should be a game. We're not drilling obedience. We're letting the dog develop and grow. Because if we drill our dog and ask too much of them too soon, we can burn out a service dog prospect. So everything we do should be short and a fun game. Training should be fun. Training should be a game that your dog enjoys playing. And you can start that good work ethic and love of training from day one. So my final tip, especially if you're getting a puppy as a prospect, is to get in with a socialization program prior to the dog coming home. That means reaching out to a training school weeks or even months prior to your dog coming home, because the good programs fill up very fast and they're not necessarily going to have an opening the week the dog comes home. And we really want to take advantage of that sponge period when your puppy is under 4 months or so, when they really can soak up all that socialization and learning. And looking at programs that do maybe day training drop off, where they're going to do socialization and training for you. Shout out to Rocky Mountain Dog Training out in Colorado, where I worked out there with Julie and her team. Awesome program that combines socialization and training in the first months that you have your dog home. So check them out if you're local to there. But basically, we're looking for a program that's going to really maximize that young brain and give them exposure to things that they really should be exposed to young, like sound, sights, dogs, people, hats, everything like that. We want to start that really early in a positive way, and getting in with a program that can help you is going to be a way for you to really maximize that time. But the good programs, again, are going to fill up quickly, and some of them have months-long wait lists. So getting that lined up prior to your dog coming home is going to be a critical component of your training program if you're going to go that route, and I highly recommend that you do. So there you have it, everyone. The time that you should start your service dog training journey is way before you ever get a prospect. It's only going to benefit you, your dog, and you as a team in the long run. Service dog training is a really intense journey that involves lots of time, energy, emotions, as well as resources. So getting your resources lined up prior to your dog coming home is going to be the key to being as successful as possible with your service dog prospect. All right, everyone, if you have questions, write them down in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more service dog content. And if you need a little extra help with training your service dog, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/DogEU. You guys have an awesome day and happy training.
Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for our next video. Subscribe now and never miss an episode.